favorite.
Glub, 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 glub.
That's going to make no sense
that is
whatsoever.
a deep cut.
It's a fish.
He's referring to today's episode, which...
Glub, glub.
Wait, we have Jake.
I was going to say, Jake is his 3? His 2?
Number
my
3.
This is your 3.
Yep.
This is not your number 2. Your number 2 is somewhere else.
Solid. Sorry, it's a pretty crappy joke.
Oh, I just flushed this whole bit down the toilet.
See, it was funny until that third one.
This is number 3, though. So what is your number 3?
My number 3 is
Sorry.
Don't look at him.
I can't. He's right across the table. I'm going to look at you.
I don't think that's any better.
Do you like this face, Dickey?
Oh.
That's just the face I made at him.
That's a face.
Yeah.
Anyway, my number...
Don't look at me. Close your
I'm
eyes.
trying to look at that corner. My third favorite movie. Now you just look like
It's too easy. It's too easy. I just move my head like this, and he's like, my favorite movie. Here's another.
Oh my god.
With that, you were just like Thor in Love and Thunder's.
Oh yeah, Jane?
What's the movie?
My third favorite movie of all time is Big Fish.
Glub glub.
Glub glub.
Glub glub. I believe it. I don't have a fun story about this at all, really. I feel like all the rest of them I've had like some kind of like connection to it that's like based on a story or something that happened in my life. I just really love this movie.
Simple.
Saw
When was
it
the
in
first time you saw it?
2000.
What'd you say, 8?
No, it was earlier than that. 2006 probably.
6?
It would have been right after I watched things like Corpse Bride or...
Your Burton kick.
I was gonna say,
Tell us about that.
I don't want to talk about that.
Jake, this is your top 10. You have a Burton film at 3, and you had a Burton kick 2 decades ago. You have to tell us about your Burton kick.
I had a Burton kick, but it was in the bad period of Burton.
I'm just saying, like, it's interesting. This is your connection to the movie.
So, like, I love the first 2 Batman movies. Well, the 80s Batman movies.
Well, only the first one's an 80s Batman movie.
Oh. I'm going to count it the same way. I love the Burton Batman movie.
There you go.
There you go.
Never saw Edward Scissorhands. Never saw...
You still haven't? Oh, it's good.
Never really saw Beetlejuice or Sleepy Hollow.
Really?
I've never seen Sleepy Hollow. Beetlejuice is classic. Ed Wood?
Mm-mm.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Mm-mm.
Really? That's his debut?
What was that, 88?
Wait, that
It's
was
like 86, I feel.
That was Tim Burton?
That's his debut. You can when you watch that movie,
never knew
it
that.
feels like, an 80s comedy with that kind of deranged Paul Rubens, rest in peace,
Yeah.
brand of humor. But there are, as they call Burtonisms in there, in like the filming and some of the gadgetry and just like the feel of it. I do believe it's a Danny Elfman score. Like, you watch it, you go, oh yeah, I can tell this is like the early Burton stuff.
I didn't
Like, you
know.
can tell.
I never seen it, but I didn't even know that was him. That's crazy.
I think that was 86 because then Beetlejuice was 88 and Batman was 89.
That checks out.
Mars Attacks.
Oh, my
I don't like that
Attacks.
movie.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's the
That's
director.
not
That's right, though. It's not.
Henry Selick.
Selick,
That's
who's
true.
done
Anyway,
Coraline
so-
and
Yeah.
Wendell and Wild.
I would have watched this after I watched that, thinking that was a Tim Burton movie because Tim Burton's name is
I
on
did think
the
that was
cover.
a Tim Burton movie.
Everyone does. It's a common mistake. The only person I know that hasn't ever made it is him.
Because he's him.
Him.
Oh, me.
You.
Yes, Mr. Tin Man.
Tim Man.
Hey.
Toon Man. That work?
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, I would have watched this just because it was a Tim Burton thing. I watched Corpse Bride, all that stuff. The more and more I watch the Corpse Bride, I don't like it. But this movie, I love.
You said 06. Sorry to cut you off. You said 06 is when you watched this for the first time.
I think so.
So this is like right after Willy Wonka remake.
I've never seen that.
Ooh. It's
I hate
not
it.
great.
I
hate
have
it.
not watched it specifically because I hear it's bad.
I don't know what it is. He had like a winning streak, and Mars Attacks or Sleepy Hollow are ones I've seen Mars Attacks, but like it's not like it's a perfect run. But then you hit the 2000s, and I don't know what happened because the Planet of the Apes remake is I'm not. It's not a hot take. I think it's terrible, but a lot of people hate it, and I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan, and I can't stand it.
You asked me that the other day if I had seen that. I said no. I thought about it, and yes, I have seen it.
Marky Mark.
Yep. Yeah. I've seen it once on cable.
That is where it belongs.
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti Ape is hilarious looking.
Can we get a whole movie of Paul Giamatti Ape? Sorry, orangutan.
Yeah. It's like there's that, but then some people after Big Fish and after Charlie, there's Sweeney Todd people really like. It's fine. I'm not a huge Sondheim fan. I know, last year before is when he passed, so another rest in peace. But so that's more of a that's just not my taste.
That's fair.
But then like Alice in Wonderland's kind of that change where like all of a sudden it's the ultra digital Tim Burton stuff.
Yeah, it's
Was
really,
it?
really.
What's that other? In the Shadows or
Dark Shadows,
Dark
which is
Shadows.
based off the old show.
show? Yeah.
And I heard that one was bad. I've not seen it.
Saw that.
Miss Peregrine's Home for
Yeah,
Peculiar
Home for
Children's like
Peculiar,
2015. Big Eyes is one I haven't seen. It's like everything from like middle of the
About
20,
Frank and Weenie.
I have seen Frank and Weenie.
The short or the longer
Not the
one?
short. The stop motion movie
Is that any good?
is okay.
It was entertaining.
That's
It's a
fine.
good kids movie.
I feel like
It's
I've-
kind of like Diet Paranorman. I think they came out the same
Yes,
year, but
yes.
it's like one of these has a lot more to it and is a lot more fun, and then the other one's just kind of it's fine. More, we'll put it this way: he got to make a filmmaker stop motion mainstream movie. I'm always for that, even if I'm not a giant fan of it. At least it's not some soulless corporate thing. Even though some Burton fans might call it a soulless corporate thing because it's not the most popular in his catalog.
No.
Sorry to go on that tangent.
I mean, you got to make a larger movie out of one of his
Early
early shorts, yeah.
And he was an animator at Disney.
I don't.
So
You know what
that's
taught
kinda
me
where it came
that?
From. What?
That he was an animator at Disney. I had never learned it before. What's the documentary on Disney Plus? Howard?
There's Howard, yeah.
I think that is what taught me that he was an animator for Disney at first.
Which is a good doc.
Never seen it.
It's good. It's about the late Howard Ashman, the
That sounds.
composer, lyricist.
Oh.
He and Alan Menken did Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin.
Yeah, okay.
Well, he did half the Aladdin songs because he passed. He died of AIDS. It's a good doc.
That's not, yeah, sounds
Yeah,
interesting.
and another doc about that time, about that time that came out like 10 years ago now. It's Waking Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, we've watched that.
You've seen that too? I think
No,
that's
I
the
watched
one.
that with you.
Oh, we did watch that together.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's another one where I was like, oh yeah, Burton worked at Disney for a while.
Maybe it was that then that because
It was one of them.
yeah.
Basically, he started as an animator and then shifted to directing and has a distinct voice.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of. I don't want to say he's lost it. It's changed. And I've not seen a lot of his more recent ones, so I can't even really say as a personal opinion.
I think the last Tim Burton thing I saw was Alice in Wonderland.
Not Dumbo.
Oh, I skipped
Yeah, I did see
Dumbo.
Dumbo. That's right.
That's 2019.
I like to
I
forget
think.
about that movie.
That's what's funny. It's like it's. I always forget it's him too, and it's like, oh yeah, another Tim Burton movie where Danny DeVito's in a circus.
Anyway, Big Fish.
Speaking of Danny DeVito,
But in the middle of
circus,
all of this Burton stuff and the late career whatever's, the more mixed reactions, we have a gem.
It's funny because you look at Big. I'm going to say right now, I think Big Fish is his best movie.
I agree.
Ooh.
It's not a high bar, not too terribly high a bar, but but this is genuinely a good movie.
I think it's his most emotional movie.
I think it is the best movie. If someone came to me and said, tell me about who Tim Burton is, and I had to recommend a movie of his to them, this is the one I would do because I feel like, there are more popular things like
Edward Scissorhands.
Scissorhands,
Batman movie.
Beetlejuice.
Alice in Wonderland is, I think, his highest grossing or one of them. That made a lot of money.
Probably, yeah.
It's
I
not
wonder. I'm gonna look
good.
that up.
It's not great, but it made a crap.
Regardless, people don't always like superhero movies. Edward Scissorhands is kind of a niche thing, I would say.
Not as much. I think nowadays there are a lot more people that have seen it. I think at the time it came out, it was a lot more niche, but now I think it's a much bigger deal.
Also, Beetlejuice is.
It's another one at the time.
Well, from what I hear,
my
from what I hear is Beetlejuice. Also Beetlejuice.
Oh. Where's Michael Keaton?
I wish Michael Keaton was here.
Oh my God, me too. Anyway.
It is Alice in Wonderland, by the way. Box office wise, this one's arranged by adjusted for inflation for 2021, but it made over $1 billion.
Whoa,
and nothing else he has made over $1 billion, even adjusted. So yeah, Alice in Wonderland is his most profitable picture, or made the most. I don't know how much that comes out of the marketing and whatnot, but that's one of those early Disney live acts. That's kind of the one that sparked this era.
Yeah,
Thanks, but
Big Fish.
yeah, we were saying about Big Fish.
Cinderella wasn't before that.
It's 5 years
wasn't
after.
before that. Yeah.
Yeah, 2010 is Alice in Wonderland. His Alice in Wonderland. And then Cinderella was 2015, I think. 14 or 15, someone in there.
Anyway, Big Fish. I just love it. It's approachable. It showcases the Tim Burton style. It also showcases the filming style of the early 20s or the early 2000s. But
2000s movie, and I love it for that. Honestly,
I was telling Jake, like, there are scenes where it's got that like hazy dream filter, and it's like, this is called. We are trying to mask certain CG or certain looks, and we don't want it to look bad, so we're gonna make it look kind of like a ominous look to it. And it's like, yep, early 2000s movie. I love how it looks. It brings me back.
I'm pretty sure the specific lens filter that I think it's called a Hollywood Pro Magic or something of that. Like
that sounds familiar.
Black Pro Magic, something of that nature, is literally a lens filter that you use to get that look. So
and it works. That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a lesser movie or in lesser hands, it could come off as cheap, but he uses it perfect, and it's a good example of the CG is used to enhance the picture and not be the picture. Mm-hmm. Like that scene where everything stops in the circus and he's like pushing popcorn out of the way. You can tell the popcorn is fake, but it doesn't matter because it's smaller and it's just a little detail. It's like it still is going to age
and
okay.
By that time, you're caught up in the moment. You don't even care.
And I'm so glad you talk about that shot because when that was happening, it was like, this is just the way that it's filmed and the way that Ewan McGregor just like walked forward. It felt like such a Tim Burton shot because it was like, it's so weird. It's so bizarre, but it's emotional. And that's what I think Tim Burton does so good. From
the mixed reactions I've read about in his modern films, it seems like the heart that he had in his early career that he injected into these, very visual movies was that secret ingredient. Mm-hmm. Like Edward Scissorhands is a pretty quirky movie. It's like that, because he does a lot of like 1950s nostalgic looks. Mm-hmm. And there's some of it in this too, like with the Gothic. I'm saying, like, think Edward Scissorhands, the town, what it looks like.
Yeah. With
the contrast of the castle up on the hill or whatever, the house. And it's like, he does this a lot, but there's that sincerity to it underneath. There's a tenderness to it. Like, Edward himself is the very quiet type. And I think this movie, Big Fish, is a step further than what Edward Scissorhands did, where you have the very visual, call it gimmicky, like facade, but behind it, there's a lot more heart to it. And that's why I think it's the best, showcasing his style and having probably easily the best story he's had in his career. That's why I think this is the perfect example. This is the epitome of a Tim Burton movie that is also good.
I love this, and this is probably, realistically, I mean, I have such a soft spot in my heart for Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is my favorite Tim Burton movie because
it's a fun one.
I love injecting fun into movies, and this does it perfectly, and Beetlejuice did it perfectly. But I think this one was more emotional than Beetlejuice was, and so like when I think of Tim Burton, I think of weird, wacky, fun. So that's where my brain always goes to. But man, at the end of this movie, like when spoilers, please go watch this if you haven't yet.
His dad dies.
His dad dies, and because his dad told him stories, he was telling his dad a story.
Him being Billy Crudup.
Yes, and
Ewan being the younger version of his dad, Albert Finney, rest in peace, being the older version of the
Yes.
character.
But yeah, when he was telling his dad the story and he was walking him down, I was crying. Like, that was such a
During their escape, or when he's carrying him to the river and all the people
entire
are
scene.
everything.
That, like, up until, like, they actually go... Here's my quick take on this. I think it should have ended with him dropping him into the river, turning the fish, and going away. I did not want to see the actual funeral at the end. And
I disagree. I think if you take that funeral out at the end, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm gonna. I think if you take the funeral out at the end, it undermines it.
Interesting.
The point is, the point
the
he makes
funeral-
is go ahead.
The point he makes in the monologue at the end about how you become your own stories, there has to be a reality that you show the audience that is shown in that funeral, and that's all that there is. Because if you don't, then you go on believing that he just made this all up, when the reality is he didn't make it up. He made it more flavorful.
More fantastical.
Yes.
But, and I think, at least for me, that's a fair argument. I can absolutely see your point there. But the way that I see it is, it's a very personal way. It's a opinion of mine that I like ending movies where you get to decide how you feel about it at the end. Like, you don't get a specific answer. And so I would have liked, and I know it's not for everyone to leave things up in the air, but I would have liked if he left it up in the air if we didn't know it was real or not. And the whole point was that his son was able to push past believing or not believing, and just understood his father liked to express his feelings to him through his fantastical stories. And I don't think knowing that was real or not didn't matter. It's just that he appreciated and loved his father for telling those stories.
So I am going to counter argument with this. I don't disagree with you entirely, but I'm going to counter argument with this. That entire movie, Billy Crudup is terrible to his dad.
He's a Crudup.
So,
You're a Crudup.
how does a guy that terrible to his dad get a girl like his wife?
Like Marion Cotillard?
Is that the girl from Inception?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Academy Award winner, Marion Cotillard.
Did she win for Inception?
No, no.
I was you followed that up. That I was like, wait, what?
No, she won for playing Edith Piaf in a biopic in 06, 07. Le'Veon Rose is the movie. I've not seen it. I hear it's okay, but she's very good. Every time I see her in something, I really like her. And I think this is her American movie debut. She's a French actress.
Oh, that's interesting.
Anyway, what I'm saying is the entire movie, he's horrible to his dad. And I don't think that him telling the story of his father's death to his father is quite the moment we've arrived, as you describe it. I think that's the start of it. I think that, again, I'm going to make the same argument. I think you need to show the audience. I don't think we arrive until he realizes that these people are real.
Interesting, because I think that arriving at that moment is him realizing all the stories his father told him were a sign of his father's love, and I think that he was reciprocating that love in that moment that he told his father a story.
Which is the start again, but it's not his mind has changed. It's he's doing this for his father, and then later it's like a validation of sorts of.
Yeah.
It's not like he lied to
And
me.
I
The
don't
stories
think
are fantastical, but there's a realness to them.
And I didn't think it needed that. I think it would have been.
That's the whole point of the movie, though.
What's that?
The whole point of the movie
The
is
whole
him
point-
living on through him, and him show like when his son is like, "That's how it was told." Dad goes, "Yep."
Living on through stories. And,
Yep,
but him telling his father the story is his acknowledgement of that. I didn't think he needed
Kinda.
Like, I mean, it's still a good movie regardless. I just think if I were to tweak it just a little bit, personally, I think it would have been stronger. But obviously, it was just difference of
I think that the point is that you can't tell, because it's a story, because the point of the movie is that you become the stories that you tell if you tell them enough. The idea is to make you unaware of what is real and what is fiction, because you've told them so much that they basically become your reality, but they are also real. So, again, that's why you see Helena Bonham Carter be Jenny and the witch, even though the witch was
before that.
was in his childhood, I think it kind of represents a more of a is it correct to say duality?
Yeah, I
in
guess.
in the father when he's like, he like she says at what do you call that, the climax? Where is the climax in this movie?
The climax is
him
probably
dying.
him. Yeah, him bringing him to the river. I think is the climax.
That's what I
Okay.
think, yeah.
So when Ewan McGregor is in the house with Helena Bonham Carter, and Billy Crudup is in the house with older Helena Bonham Carter, and she's saying,
Didn't really look that much older. They just did her hairstyle different.
Yeah. Maybe took a couple wrinkles out, changed the wrinkles a little bit.
I think that's meant to showcase how he felt about his stories, because he talks about the witch, and then she talks about the witch, and then they talk about how she became the witch because she represented that kind of bad, unknown part of his life, and all that to serve as a purpose of, you don't know what real order this happened in. You don't know what's real and what's fake. The point is that he is who he is because of the stories.
Yeah.
They are real, but they're also not real.
Exactly. And they even say that in the very beginning of the movie. They're just like, I try to remember the exact dialogue that, I don't remember if it was Ewan that said it or if it was Albert Finney. But someone I don't remember, someone said in the very beginning that these might seem out of place or they might not be an exact how it happened, but this is the story. And so from the very beginning, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. I kind of, it ended the way I expected it to, and it worked. The whole movie worked. It's a good movie, period.
That's true. I've seen it. I think this is probably the 4th time I've seen it this year.
4th? I thought it was the 3rd.
So, let me tell you about that. I realized how this happened. I noticed that they put it on Netflix in like January of
But it
last
wasn't on Netflix now. I had to rent it.
I own a copy of it and I still rented it. That was dumb. Because I had to watch it in bed because I hadn't watched it until last night.
I also watched it last night.
But I was also laying in bed.
It's a dangerous game to play there.
Anyways.
Sorry.
So I watched it on Netflix and I went, this is one of my favorite movies. And then I wanted to show my wife. So I showed my wife and she loved it. Well, then she wanted to show her mom and stepfather. So we watched it there. And now we're doing this.
I will say, watching it last night, and this is also part of the reason why I shared this with Sam, we watched it together, is because every Tim Burton movie, for me, even this one that doesn't take place in Halloween, is a Halloween movie. Because Tim Burton's weirdness, it just fits the fall and spooky aesthetic.
I mean, the town is called Spectre.
Yeah.
And it does have a very, I don't want to say spooky, but unnerving kind of vibe.
That's just it. That's all of Tim Burton's movies. They're all just weird. And I love them for that. And that's why I think it's just, it's a perfect fall movie.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's just so many metaphors. There's just so many layers to this. And I'd be interested to read the book. I have the book that it is based off of. And I just haven't read it.
I feel like this would it obviously did translate well, but I feel like this would work as a book very well.
It worked as a book first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Daniel
yeah.
Wallace wrote the book. Came out in 1998.
Mm-hmm. The metaphors are just really interesting to dive into. Like we were talking a little bit earlier, like, is Spectre supposed to be some kind of like afterlife or whatever? Because it has that vibe.
I absolutely picked up on that.
But then he goes back to it and it's broken down and
I know, that was
all that stuff, and it's like it doesn't really fit the afterlife vibe, or like the metaphor, the witch you were talking about, how it kind of threw you off because it just kind of doesn't work completely.
What I was saying to him was how it's in there for a reason, where there's something with why the witch is supposed to resemble her. I don't know if it's in the book, but, Helena Bonham Carter plays both, and then they allude to the character being the witch and all that. It's like, it's in there for a reason, but I'm not quite sure what the reason is. The movie is a fairy tale, so we're not supposed to question how things really work because it's a fantasy.
Kind of like how the car ends up in the tree after the storm.
Yeah.
He was underwater because it rained that much.
Yeah, but cars would sink if they were full of water like that. It wasn't full of water, though. I don't know, because it was on the ground when the mermaid swam past him.
Yeah.
That was no mermaid. That was a fish.
It's true.
Remember? It's a fish, and we just see what we see. So what did we see? We saw a naked woman. So, I was going to say, though, we don't have to question how it works, but when it's a narrative thing of, like, we want you to pay attention to this, I was kind of confused on why is Jenny supposed to be the witch if it's here at the beginning beforehand, but then also, like, after he's an adult, I was like, not really sure, and I was saying, it's probably something in the book that is just not in the movie or not conveyed as easily, maybe I'm missing something, but... Yeah, that was a little confusing. It doesn't hurt the movie. It was just like kind of wondering what it's supposed to mean.
I mean, it's there because then the witch shows back up at the river scene. So,
yep.
I mean, they make a point of showing her. So,
well, everyone's there.
Everyone's there.
I always love finale
like
stuff
Smash.
like that.
Yeah.
I always like when they do that. Movies and shows are like everyone is there at the big ending. It's like I always like that. I always did. So seeing everyone there.
Seeing Danny DeVito. Oh man, I love Danny DeVito so much.
He's good in this movie, though.
He's great.
That clown just shot him. He's
Deep Roy. Oh. Deep Roy is the actor's name.
And then he just stands
Mr. Soggy Bottom is his character name. He's in a lot of things and a lot of Burton things. I mean, he's the Oompa Loompas in Charlie the Chocolate Factory. He was in the first Narnia movie. It's like Get a Brick or something. He's the White Witch's like aid dwarf.
So long since I've seen that, but okay.
Yeah, there's a moment where he says, "You're not gonna kill me," and Tilda Swinton just looks at him and goes, "Not yet."
The first Narnia movie?
Yeah.
That's the best one.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, yeah, some great cast. We haven't mentioned, why can't I think of it? Steve Buscemi.
Yeah,
Semi.
Steve Buscemi is great, especially when he just all of a sudden, what are you doing? Like when they meet him in the bank. Oh yeah, I'm robbing this place. Like what?
It reminded me because it's after the time. It reminded me of Oh Brother Art though. For some reason, that scene.
I was about to say.
I wonder if that's intentional.
The comedy had.
Or did you say Oh Brother Where Out There was after?
No, the Big Fish is after.
Okay.
And it's not the same time period either because it's supposed to be like the 60s.
Yeah, but like,
and Oh Brother
I
was
wonder
the 30s
if
in different states.
there's a certain way that Burton filmed that to evoke that.
I don't think it was in his mind at all. I just think it's me making connections. Like, oh, it reminds me of this other comedy where they go in and rob a bank pretty nonchalantly.
But I think
with
that, like,
George Nelson.
That nonchalant humor is very like Tim Burton does it, and so do the Coen brothers. Like it's very their senses of humor are similar, and I just now connected those dots. That's really interesting.
I do like how there's nothing in the vault, and he tells them about like, oh, there's a reason this is happening from other more legal quote unquote ways, and so that inspires him to go to Wall
listen
Street.
to it, and it's just the narrator.
Yeah, that happened a couple times. We're not shown everything, like the escape plan from the war, like how they get back. He just tells us, and it's one of those examples of they're telling and not showing, and it's working really well because it's a movie about storytelling, and him telling us is going to be a lot more interesting in 5 seconds than watching the whole thing played out.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, that makes some of the story sequences not feel as earned when they pay off.
Yeah, what I was telling Jake Dickey was the scene where he's reunited with, why do I keep misremembering her name? Sandra. I don't know. I keep forgetting Sandra's name.
Sandy, can't you see? That's not right.
So that reunion scene with Sandra where he's behind the what are those called? Sheets.
Yeah.
And it's a big moment. The music swells and they embrace because she thought he was dead. It's like, this is a really good scene. It's well shot. The nonverbal acting is really good, and it has all the pieces of being a very effective scene, and it is. We only were in the war section of them being separated for like 5 minutes of the movie, and that was one part I was like, I kind of want this to be longer because then you feel more of a separation. I don't want it to be.
But that's also not
long,
the thrust of the story.
It's really interesting. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's really interesting you point that out because if you rent this movie through Google Play like I did, do you want to know what section it says it is? It says it's a war movie.
It's not.
And I'm like, well, first when I saw when it said that, like in the very top left, I'm like, really? I didn't think it was. And then I'm watching the majority of this. I'm like, this is the first time I saw it was last night. I'm watching. I'm like, this is not a war movie. And then it finally gets to that section. I'm like, really? This is what makes it a quote unquote war movie? I just want to throw that out.
I think another thing is like the circus sequence, like everything with the circus is a fairly good chunk, and everything with him rebuilding Spectre is a fairly big chunk. And then the thing with running into Steve Buscemi does not have to be that long because that's such a contained thing. Yeah. This one's like, if this was 5-10 minutes longer, I think it improves on the separation because we know he gets back, but the whole thing is like to feel that separation. So then when they get back, it feels more earned. That's my thing. And again, maybe it's longer in the book, and I don't need to see the full escape thing like we were saying. I'm just wondering what else you can do just to pad it a little bit. And that's a 2-hour movie already.
I'm going to be honest with you, though. The book's not that long. It's like it's like the length of The Giver. Maybe not even as long as that.
I don't remember how many pages that is. That's kind of short, though.
Just think about it in thickness.
Yeah. It's like 200 pages.
Yeah, that's
250.
That's pretty
like
short.
I mean, that is about right for what you tell me how scripts work. So,
the script would have been like 100 to 130 pages, something like that. It's a very visual movie, but there's also a ton of dialogue, so it might have even been longer than that. I bet you it was like 150 pages. There's a lot of talking.
Yeah, there is.
And the more talking you have like that, often it's not a page a minute. It's probably a little less per page. Yeah, that's true. The point being, that's one the back to the war thing. That's one part of the movie I thought could have been a little longer. I remembered it being longer, and then when I watched it this time, I'm like, oh, it's basically it's one scene.
Yeah.
It's if you count the plane to the show, it's basically one long scene. And again, it's not like it hurts it super much. It's just like that's the one thing I think could be improved on. Is if it's a little longer and the separation's more felt. But you don't have to make that the focus of the whole story, but it's such a big moment in their lives. That's just my take on that.
That makes complete sense.
I have a lot of... This is completely changing the subject. I just don't have anything to add to what you say to that.
What were you going to say?
I have a lot of favorite scenes of this movie. I think it changes every time I watch it. I'm going to say 3 of my favorite scenes here. One of my favorite scenes is the doctor talking to him in the hospital.
Dr. Bennett, right. Dr. Bennett, who's played by Robert Guillaume, who appeared in another of Jake's top 10 movies. He was Rafiki in The Lion King.
Oh.
When he's talking to him, and I wrote the quote down. Let me go to the quote.
I appreciate you actually have it written down. Is it?
I just wrote it as a review on Letterboxd.
You took the words out of my mouth. Like somebody tells me this is from Jake.
And it's from the part in the hospital in the third act of the movie, right? That he says to him.
I don't know that I can see it on my. Oh.
You should be able to.
Yeah, I can. He said, I suppose I've given the choice between the real story and one with twisted turns, loves and lost, and a surprise ending. Well, truth be told, I never was one for true stories.
And what does Mr. Crudup do when he hears it? I kind of like your story better. The whole like, oh, you're born a week early, your dad was in Wichita, and he was sad he couldn't be there. And it's like, he's right, like, the other story's better.
Yeah.
He says, what is Billy Crudup's character name? We keep saying that. Will, thank you. Will keeps seeing it as he's lying to me instead of like, I think there's a little more to it than that, but I don't think he's necessarily lying. It's just how he tells his story.
Yeah, I think the second scene I would like to talk about is that scene. It's so much character packed into such a short interaction where they're sitting around the dad's bed and...
The pancakes. They're eating pancakes, right?
Are they eating pancakes?
They're watching TV and eating breakfast, and that's when Dad, we need to talk, and the 2 women leave.
Oh no! The interaction is before that.
Okay.
So it's when they're eating pancakes.
So it is when they're eating pancakes.
I think so.
That is the scene where he says, "Dad, we need to talk," and because she takes the pancakes away, and I got really mad.
But it's before that. It's when he's like, "Everybody's heard your stories." Well, I know someone in here who hasn't, and then he starts to tell a story, and then the wife finishes the story back.
It is that scene because it's about the syrup.
That's right.
Yeah, because
It
the
stuck
syrup
them
fell on
off
the
to
car.
the Jeep, and the Jeep flew off.
Yep, it is that scene.
Well, you're right. That is. There's a lot of information in that dialogue that isn't that. It's just really well written.
But the one that I would not say probably made me cry when I was a teenager watching this, but the one that makes my married ass cry is when he's in the tub and his wife is there, and he's like, I was drying out, and then she gets in the tub with him, and he's like, I don't think I'll ever dry out. Oh my gosh.
That was really sweet.
I feel
Must be nice for people to have special someone.
How's it feel to be alone?
Oh no!
I can barely fit in my bathtub as it is, so I mean,
me too. Actually, I need a bigger bathtub.
Oh, you gotta put a bigger bathtub in a place you rent.
Well, no, I first gotta get a house. That's step one.
oh, Mr. Moneybags over here, get a house. $10,000 pay for that house, like in the movie?
Yeah, I wish.
I couldn't believe that when he said it. I was like, $10,000
Oh my god.
for that house?
And what did you
2023
say?
hurts.
America sucks.
Yeah, that's those were your three scenes. It was the
Yeah.
one where they're after the pancakes, the doctor telling him what story do you want, and then the I was drying out scene.
Yeah.
Those are the three big ones.
I think the drying out scene is really kind of the only real moment we get with the dad and the mom by themselves when they're older
when
like
they're
that.
older. Yep.
And I think it is
And
an emotional payoff for what we've seen in the movie up to this point.
That's the last time we see his dad before the hospital, because that's when Will drives to Jenny, right? I just saw Jenny's house, because then they get that whole backstory. And by the time he gets back, because he's been gone, everyone's gone. He's at the hospital after the stroke. That's the last time we see him at the house. So I noticed that when you were retracing your steps earlier. I was like, oh, okay, that's right. I didn't even realize that this time.
It's a very intentional movie. The more I deconstruct it, the more intentional I realize it is.
And how like he made all these friends and helped them become successful, and then he went to them to help this town. Like
There's
the whole section was great.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No good.
There's very little fluff. Like everything that he talks about and all the stories, they don't seem like they mean that much when you're in it. And then you look back and you realize where everything came from. Like, oh no, everything needed to happen. Like it's very like the only thing like we talked about earlier. The only thing I would cut off was the very end. But other than that, like it's a quick 2 hours. It moved by pretty fast.
Yeah, and then another thing I was thinking about while watching movies, like we're in this day and age, and it's not just this movie. It's movies from last decade too, where because time has passed, there are big names in smaller roles.
Yeah.
That we see. It's like, how in the world did they get this cast together? And then you realize, idiot, they weren't big then.
They weren't that.
It also wasn't
these are
only 10
stepping
years
stones.
old. It was more like...
Yeah, I'm saying this one's 20 years old.
Yeah.
I'm saying one's from even last decade, where it's like, yeah, these are stepping stones. They're not where they are now, of course.
Because was Ewan like massive at this point? He was probably starting.
I mean,
like,
he
Two
had...
Star Wars movies
yeah,
in.
Oh, that's
was it
right,
only
03.
two? Yeah, it was only two.
03, so he would.
This is the year after
99,
Attack of the
02,
Clones.
02.
But, like, it's already got big names in it, but then a couple of things. Where is it? Well, he's not, like, a massive name, but poor David Denman. People keep stealing his fiance. That's Roy on The Office. Another movie where... Oh, another property. Yep.
His face looks really
Don.
familiar.
I'm like, this poor guy. I mean, he's a jerk in both, but this poor guy keeps getting his fiance stolen by him, by these skinny, good-looking white guys.
Thank you for connecting the dots, because I'm watching this movie. I never IMDb'd it. I'm like, I know his face.
And then the other one is, it is one scene, and it's a blink and you'll miss it, and I missed it. I had to look it up later. So when they're kids, and they're going to the witch's house to look into her eye,
Yes.
the girl with them, that is Miley Cyrus.
Are you kidding me?
That girl with them is Miley Cyrus. Credited as Destiny Cyrus because she wasn't a star
She
yet.
wasn't Miley yet.
Yeah. She's on here.
So-
Holy
I think her name's like Ruthie.
crap.
Yep, Ruthie, when the kids are all like 8 years old. That's Miley Cyrus. I didn't realize it. And then I read later, I'm like, wait a minute. And I think she's credited as Destiny in the movie. I might have already said that, but yeah, like one of those what?
If you're listening, watch us on YouTube for a second to see my mouth actually hit the floor when Jared said that.
Wait, what did Jared say? I was too busy looking up something.
Miley Cyrus.
The Miley Cyrus
Oh,
thing.
yeah, okay. Yeah.
Now, if you saw on
Destiny
YouTube, if you saw on YouTube or just heard Jake's reactions, because his reaction was earlier today, he was like, "What?" I go, "Yeah." Really? I go, "Yeah." So it was a little more animated earlier, but the blow has already been dealt. I should have saved it, but
I'm so
you know, we
process
talked.
this right
Yeah.
now. That is literally crazy to me.
I was looking up if Jenna Elfman is related to Danny Elfman, and the answer is yes.
Oh wow, how are they related?
Danny Elfman is the uncle of her husband.
So she
who
married
was
Danny
Jenna
Elfman's
She
nephew.
is married to
Bill.
Bodhi Elfman. I'm going to say
Bodhi.
Bodhi. I don't know how to say it. Bodhi.
I think it's Bodhi.
Yeah, Bodhi.
Whose father is Richard Elfman, who is brother to Danny Elfman.
And who is Jenna Elfman? Was she someone in this?
Pam in The Office.
Oh.
Another Office connection. A couple more degrees of Kevin Bacon there, but so. Oh, and the other cast thing that I in the moment thought of and then looked up right away. So when why do I keep forgetting his name? Why do I keep doing that? Edward. They say his name a bajillion times. I just keep forgetting people's names. Edward gets to Spectre the first time. He's walking through the middle of town, and a guy's sitting on the porch playing a banjo, and he's playing dueling banjos.
Bring that up.
And I'm sitting there going, huh, I wonder if, let's see, the timing was, I wonder if that's the same guy who played the kid in Deliverance who plays that with Ronnie Cox at the beginning of the movie. Like the banjo kid. I look it up, it is.
That's wild.
And I was like, yeah, it's about 30-some years after he was younger, yeah, that's him. I thought that was hilarious. I laughed. I'm like, oh, he actually got the Deliverance kid.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Billy Redden is the person's name. So nice little detail that a lot of people won't know. It's weird how like some movies just kind of drop off. Like I know what Deliverance is, and people like our parents know what it is, but I doubt people younger than us have ever heard of it.
They maybe have heard of it.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah, and it's mentioned.
No, it's not.
Squeal, you piggy.
Maybe it's just the stuff that I'm watching, but I feel like it's mentioned in pop culture here and there.
Well,
It's
dueling
because
banjos
the song
and
is
then
super famous.
there's dueling banjos, and then of course the squeal like a pig scene is one of the most uncomfortable things ever, and you don't even see it. So those are like the two big moments, other than Ronnie Cox running after them like this with an organ going, "You son of a pig!" It always kills me. It's supposed to be really serious, but I'm just laughing at his delivery of that.
His delivery. I see what you did there.
Big fish.
The only thing that doesn't really quite make a whole lot of sense to me is the cover art on the DVD case is the tree. The tree is never really directly referenced
I'm gonna look this
in
up.
It's always a tree.
in any sort of capacity.
Is there a tree at the beginning when he's fishing in the water? The bookend of the whole thing.
I don't think.
Is there a tree in the shot in the distance that the sun's going through?
I
Or
don't think like that.
there-
It might just be like family tree sort of thing.
Is this the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah.
is that the car? That might be the car tree.
Yeah, that's
Without the
interesting.
car in it, because I feel like that's the shot. Because it looks like a road going by.
Without the car in it.
I
It'd be
like
funny
the,
if it had the car in it.
that'd be cool.
I will also say a small detail. I love the name of this movie because the classic fishing story, it's just it's so simple and it's stupid, but I like it.
I mean, it's supposed to be he's a big fish in a small town.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
small
big
pond.
fish in a small pond, but also
It's
the
also
classic-
supposed to be like a fish tail.
But the fish is also
that's-
big.
Yeah.
It's
Like I
also a metaphor.
said, it's a very clever title. I like it.
I'm telling you, layers on layers on layers.
I like
It's
the
like an
three-
onion.
I like
This is
the,
not an ogre.
All
the
right,
3-year motif thing. Like he waited. He was at the circus for 3 years to know who she was, and
He went a few years without talking to his son.
3 years without talking to his father. And the army was like a 3-year thing.
Wasn't he in the bed the bone?
And he was,
bed
and
for
when he
3
hit his
years or
growth
something
spurt,
like
3
that?
years, which the most Burton-looking mechanical
Oh my
thing in the whole movie
Yeah.
is that muscle
Yes.
massager thing. I was like, there he is.
Yeah.
5 minutes in, there he is.
Tim Burton's the one.
Again, injecting his
But it's like
his
the
sti-
best
stuff
of them.
into it. Yeah.
Are those? Never mind.
I was gonna say what something about our set here. You're referencing.
The
it.
lights are the right color.
They
right?
look blue to me.
They
Did I
do
just-
look blue.
What is it? The lights are the wrong color.
You might have. Oh well, blue is
Ah,
one of our
yeah.
Oh,
colors.
it's too late now.
Audio listeners, tell us: are our lights the wrong color?
Please tune into YouTube so you can see.
I can't tell. They look like they could be purple if you look like you look at the reflection.
If you don't look at them,
If you look at the reflection on the ceiling, they look like they could be
It's true.
purple.
It's kinda- it's purplish
big,
hue.
big fish.
Big fish. Big
You know what
fish.
else is blue? Water. There. Eh.
Not river water. Have you ever walked into river water?
Yeah. Actually, I have.
I'm sure you have. You live in Michigan. It'd be pretty hard to avoid a river.
Not really. I mean, you could avoid it with a car.
And you probably drive over a lot of rivers. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I get caught in a tree. Actually, this was like was this the year after or the year of Chamber of Secrets? Is that 2 movies in the same year with a car stuck in a tree?
Oh my god. Oh, that's a good question. We can,
Is
I think
Chamber
it's
of
the
Secrets
year
over?
after.
we can look that up really
I
fast.
feel
It
like
is-
I
is it
feel
02?
like I feel like Philosopher's Stone was
What's a philosopher? I'm American.
02.
Oh, 2. So yeah, the 2 years in a row we had a car stuck in a tree.
That's amazing.
I was gonna say something. What was it? Oh, I was gonna say something.
something about Velocipastor.
That's a
Where did that-
great movie. I love Velocipastor.
Oh man,
Go
I
watch
had
that
it.
movie. It's on Amazon Prime.
Spoilers. Dickey's wrong about this one. It's a tarp. Don't believe it.
I would like to say, Mr. Will in this movie gets put into the a movie category of main character is the most least interesting part of the movie because everything else around him is more important.
Well, he's not the main character. I don't think
He is the main character,
His dad's
kinda.
the main.
I think all of them are the main character, except for maybe the wife, the photographer wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
that's
just
fair.
it's his perspective because the stories of his dad's life is stuff that he's been told, and he's the one that opens and closes the movie with it. So it's kind of this is his perspective.
Yeah. So it's like second.
So he
person.
kind of is the main character because we're also focusing on him with his father for most of it, not all of it, of course, but and it's just like he's kind of a nothing character a little bit just because everything else he's supposed to be the one that we're relating to and reacting with. He does get very, very jerkish very quickly. It's like, man, I'm so sick of these lies. It's like,
Me. Why is it all about you, Dad? Me.
what were you saying to me? It's like, man, he's so whiny and he's a jerk. And I was like, I know. But I was
But
thinking,
you and I
oh,
are storytellers, so
that's the other thing. So how does it make you feel?
Like I was quite literally back in the beginning. I was like, okay, no, but then I immediately sided with his dad. It's just fun.
His dad is what does he say? Everyone loves
even
him.
if it's a
Everyone
story
loves
you've heard your entire life,
I mean, I can understand being sick and tired. Okay, we've heard this over and
But
over again.
getting
Dad,
mad over
but-
I'm being lied to because he's never told me the truth. I need to know the truth, and I'm thinking
Yeah.
jeez.
And the thing is, I can absolutely see his perspective. I just don't agree with it.
or just I've listened to my dad tell some stories 1,000 times. I find him funnier every time. I become a part of telling the story.
And
that's
then when you're not with your dad, you start telling the stories, and people laugh, and you laugh. Then you stop for a second, and go, "Oh no, he lives in me."
Remember who you are.
Sorry. Lion King 2 plug right there.
You know how they say all the kings of the past are the stars.
You mean a couple of mooks? I put a couple of dead guys are up there watch us. What mook told you that? Yeah, Pretty dumb, huh? By the way, in 1998 in Ireland, I was driving... Kidding. That's a Matthew Broderick joke. The murderer Matthew Broderick joke, as they call it. Anyway. So yeah, another couple movies of the main character is the weakest character in this movie because it's everything heavy around him. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's funny because the main character is a real person.
No spoilers. I haven't seen that yet.
I'm not going to say spoilers because Mr. Rogers is not the main character. Mm-hmm. It's the journalist who's talking to him because that's who wrote the article that the movie is based off of.
Sort of like Saving Mr. Banks, except not as cringy.
Kinda. That one's, but that one's also like she is interesting. She's very interesting. She has
the movie's
flashbacks.
Not about her though.
It kind of is though. Half the movie is
not, but like it's about Disney forcing her to tell this story that she doesn't want to tell.
Well, the other half of it is her dealing with Colin Farrell father Colin Farrell father? Isn't it Colin Father Farrell?
Better than Colin Farrell vampire.
But yeah, and then another one's like the first Black Panther movie.
Yeah.
Every single supporting character in that movie is more interesting than him, and it's a shame because he is probably the most interesting part of the first movie he was in. Then he gets his own movie, and he's not. And then he's not interesting.
And then he
like
is
the
again
others.
the most interesting part of the second movie that he's not even.
In. And he's and he's
Yeah.
even interesting in the little bit in the Avengers movies he's in. It's just funny how his own movie he's the least interesting aspect. It's just there are three. It's a Big Fish, Black Panther, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Sure
Three
I'll
examples.
I'll start with B.
Yeah. I'm sure if you thought hard enough, you can think of more.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, those are three examples of we have a main character who the whole point is we are kind of with them on this kind of the audience perspective, but also they're not very interesting. That's okay, but it is kind of funny. Like, yeah, this tends to happen more than we think. And Billy Crudup is a good actor.
Yeah, he was good in this.
Yeah. I think he's very stiff.
He plays
in a lot of it.
The part.
Yeah, I think at times it's like he is so blunt. It's like, couldn't have put a little more character in that? I know it's probably a direction thing, but it's like he's just so like, and it's very like, there's no dynamics in the way he talks. It's just very flatlined. It's like we were talking about the bluntness of like he walks into Jenny's house. He says, "So did he have an affair with you?" It's like, jeez. Like, no tact.
No, yeah.
It's
Really,
like, how does he get Marion
different.
as his wife? and he kind of acts like this. It's like, in his own wedding, he's being a little bitch boy about it. He's just like, Dan, why didn't you tell us a story of my wedding for one night of your life? It's supposed. Could it not be about you? It's supposed to be our night. I'm like, I can get the frustration, dude. Could I get a little more emotion?
His wife didn't even seem upset about that. That's
No.
the funniest thing.
And it's fine to have it where the only person having a problem with it is him, but there's like no emotion to that delivery, and it's not like it's a bad performance, but it's just kind of fitting that. Yeah, he's kind of not much of a character because everything is happening to him or being told to him. That's how I was feeling this time, and now talking about it's like, yeah, little bland. But it's not like it's bad. He's still, like, I cared. And the way he tells the story, we were joking, like, it's not the greatest storytelling. And you're like, it's because he's not a storyteller.
He's
not a
bad
storyteller.
job of it.
Yeah.
But there's a sincerity to it. That's why it works. He even says, like, I don't know how to start this. I don't do this. What do I do? And then as he gets going, it starts getting better. It's not perfect, but that is where the stiffness works. He's out of his comfort zone. But there are other times in the movie's like, could use a little more.
Or the insure scene. Here, just drink half of this. I'll tell you you drink the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna fall for that.
And then like he drinks it,
Like,
but it's barely a reaction. He just kind of drinks a big swig. It's not even like it should have been like a swig.
It should have been.
I don't know if either of you.
But he kind of just takes a long gulp and just goes. That's like.
I don't know if either of you have
more.
ever taken a swig of Ensure from.
I can't imagine it's good.
Uh-uh.
So would your reaction be, or
Depends on how dead I was inside at the time.
if you took that much of a swig?
That might have killed me at the time.
Yeah, so again, there's a little more. And it's funny, 6 years later, not only do we see all of him as Dr. Manhattan, we get a nice yelling scene of, leave me alone! He's good in that movie. You know why he's good in that movie? Because, of course, he talks monotone. That's Dr. Manhattan.
If
Like
Wasn't he
it
a lot more
fits the
buff in that
character.
movie too?
Yeah.
Like he was pretty skinny in this
Every
one.
part of him.
Oh Jesus.
I think
He got his crud up.
Oh.
Anyway, what I was going to talk about, I was drawing this time watching it. I was drawing a lot of comparisons to it being like a Forrest Gump style movie,
Yeah.
But-
Tim Burton's Forrest Gump.
But-
it really is though.
but better
Both have
because
fit.
it's not. I think Forrest Gump, in a lot of ways, has not aged well because of how they work. A couple of things because of the characters, but also
Retweet.
because of how they anchor it into time the way that they do, which is interesting, don't get me wrong, but something like this where you're telling the whole story of someone's life, you can't place this in a time. I mean, even in the war, they're not really
Not a specific year, but you can get a sense of, oh, this whole thing is
You can
20th century,
yes,
but it's not directly tied
I'm
to.
not. I'm not saying. Oh yeah, this dude met JFK. And
Forrest Gump is all about references.
and here's some stock footage to show it.
And the Forrest Gump thing works because it's supposed to be cataloging the experience of a generation. That's why our parents' generation loves it.
And that's
And then
why
now
we
we grow up and go,
know.
oh, Jenny's a terrible person. Who used him?
Yes.
Which, if you want to know, there is a an Indian remake that came out last year, the year before, called Lal Singh Chadha. And it's got Amir Khan, who's one of their big stars. I've seen a couple movies with him. And I remember I'm watching the movie, and it's a decent little movie. They fixed the Jenny character. If you'd like to
Really?
hear how they do it.
I'm so curious.
So I wasn't planning to do this. I hope I hit all the right details. So I believe she, in that movie, is wanted for, she kills her like mobster boyfriend. So she's hiding out at his place, and she does like him. So in the middle of the night, you know how in Forrest Gump, she just gets up and leaves.
Yep.
In this one, the cops get there, and she like begs him, please don't wake him up. Like, I'll go with you if you don't wake up.
That's
So she's
good.
forced to go.
Good.
And then she, after going through, I think like she does some kind of plea thing or something, or talks or something.
Mm-hmm.
She might not even killed him. It was something with the mob where the cops are after. But the way they fix it is he goes out running, like in Forrest Gump.
Yep.
Because he's away running the whole time, she can't get a hold of him. He's gone for like 5 years or something. So she has tried to call him, but he's out and about, so she can't call him. So when he gets home, she's finally able to talk to him and say, hey, I had your kid, but I couldn't get a hold of you. Whereas in Forrest Gump, it's, I'm sick, I need someone to pay for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that simple, but that is kind of how it reads now. And that's why the internet
Absolutely.
hates Jenny now. But then you watch this new version, it's like, that fixes it.
Is it?
That really fixes it.
Is it actually like Forrest Gump?
It's straight up. The one thing that holds it back is they try to tie it to specific moments in India's history that go over my head, but there's only like 3 or 4 of them that are obvious.
That's what I was just thinking. Like, what would that even? Because like that
That's interesting. I wanna
for
watch
people that
this.
grew up in the 20th century or in the mid to latter half of 20th century, like that's very anchored to there. What would that look like in another country?
It is. I think it's moved a little bit because I think it's supposed to be closer to the modern day, and there are events. It's like, I don't know about this, but I can see that's important. But then there's something like he's celebrating something with a group of people as a kid, and he's doing the move, and I don't know the star's name, but there's a huge Indian star from like the 80s and 90s, I think it's 80s and 90s, who that was his move, and he just happens to be an unknown at this party who sees it, and it's like, oh, and that ends up being it, because then it is a culture I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
And I go, scenes like that are kind of fun, but I think take away from the good that the movie has. Because when it tries to be straight up Forrest Gump, it doesn't work as well to my dumb American mind of not knowing all the context. And when it's not,
Well-
it's got a warmth to it that Forrest Gump does not have.
So interesting.
I know we went off on this tangent,
What is
but it
this?
is worth. It might even be on Netflix for all I know. I can't remember what it was on, but it's an interesting watch. It's like I can see the comparison because it literally says based off of Forrest Gump. It is a direct adaptation of, I think it's Eric Roth's screenplay. It's someone's screenplay. The point being, it's interesting how they can fix that character. It might not be a greater movie for all I know. It's been a while since I've seen Forrest Gump, but they fix that character. And
For them.
I think in this, and then going back to Big Fish, they don't have a character like that because it's different of a movie, but
the
it is
dad
well
kind
balanced.
of is the character like that, the unpredictable sort of. Maybe not does what benefits him, but
Yeah, but instead
has
of using people, gives back.
has a benefiting motive that we don't necessarily know.
Yeah, I had forgotten completely this time around. Probably I said about the whole him rebuilding Spectre. I just forgot about it.
I'm still not entirely clear whether or not he had an affair with Jenny.
I don't think he did. I mean, she straight up's about to kiss him after he finishes fixing
Yeah.
the house, and he's like, "No, I can't."
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially for that scene, I don't think they would have.
Maybe
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. It just that one was always kind of a little vague to me.
Good movie.
It's a great.
Really good movie. Makes me miss Albert Finney even more. We lost him in the last
I remember
few
the
years. Let me
headlines.
see. When is
fairly
it? 2019, so about 4 years ago. But it makes me mad. Like, he gets nominated a couple years before for Aaron Brockovich, but doesn't get nominated for this, where he is so good. And Ewan McGregor is really good. He's another one. He is popular and he is successful, but man, I feel like he goes unrecognized for some things like this. Like, I would have recognized him for this. I don't remember what the categories look like, but he's really good in this.
You know what he was really good in?
Star Wars.
Birds of Prey.
I didn't even know he was in that.
Yeah, he's the villain.
Yeah. He was actually really fun.
No.
He exploded off the screen, didn't
What
he?
is the name of it? Dr. Sleep.
Dude, he's phenomenal in Doctor Sleep.
He is. I don't think that's like a one watch sort of movie, because I think on a second watch I would find it less interesting.
Also agree with that. Yeah.
But
I do think
his performance as that character, is it Timmy or Tommy?
Jack.
Danny.
Danny.
Danny. Yep.
Danny!
I said Jack. Wait, no, that's the dad. Danny.
As Danny, as an adult, is fascinating.
It's so good. And the only issue, and not to go on a tangent about Doctor Sleep now.
Yeah,
but
it's Ewan McGregor related.
It's Ewan McGregor
so.
related. And I just think, like, the reason why, you know how you said if you rewatch it, you might find a little more holes in it. I think that's because Mike Flanagan is better at creating longer series in TV than movies.
Is Mike Flanagan the Chernobyl guy?
No. He did a lot of the Netflix horror movies, like Haunting of Hill House, or series, like Haunting of Hill House.
What was the recent one?
Recent Midnight Mass.
That's it.
He Fall of the House Usher is also coming out. So just quick saying that I think he's better at doing longer form stuff than short form.
But we know Ewan's best performance of all time.
Phantom Menace.
Robots.
Yeah,
Rodney
baby!
Copperbottom.
Yeah, baby.
When as your kid you're like, oh, the funny red guy is the main character. It's like, no, it's the blue guy. Okay. His dad is a dishwasher. Literally. His stomach is a dishwasher that he loads up dishes in.
Wait, Jake, have you
His
never
name is
seen this
Herb.
movie?
He's never seen it. We're watching Robots
We're
next
watching
week.
Robots, baby. Hit me, baby, one more time. Ooh.
He lays in it. I didn't know I could do that.
Such a good movie.
Who wants to get fixed? Yeah, and the dog goes, ooh. Jay Leno is a fire hydrant. Congrats, Herb. The dog's in. Don't even think about it. It's like, that is the best on-screen performance of Jay Leno ever.
The fever dream is so good.
And Disney destroyed that studio. That was Blue Sky. Well, apparently they were coming back, maybe as of this. Who knows?
The
It's
developers
Disney.
of Shrek. Isn't that what you said?
No, Blue Sky is
No,
different.
Blue Sky. They did Ice Age. And
Yeah, but you said
Epic.
You said that Shrek wasn't. Oh, Illumination was the one that you
Illumination
said.
is still around because they make money.
No. I was thinking you said that Blue Sky was developing Shrek, or the new Shrek.
It's
No,
Illumination.
Blue Sky got shut down by Disney because they acquired them because they were under Fox, and then Disney took the 200 or 300 animators and shut down the studio. Why? They were making something. They were right in the middle of making something.
Like Ice Age 20.
There was something, and Netflix acquired it, and they're gonna finish it.
Jared needs to see Ice Age 20.
The Adventures of Buck Wild is the only Ice Age movie I haven't seen. I've seen 6 of those stinkers, and now there's a 7th one.
6 of them?
Or whatever. I think there's 5 or 6. I've seen all of them up to, except for the new Buck Wild one. I hear it's terrible.
seen,
Not
like,
that the bar is high, but I hear this one's even worse.
I can see like 3 of them at most, maybe.
Because there's Ice Age, there's the Meltdown, there's Dawn of the Dinosaurs, there's Continental Drift, and Collision Course. There's 5.
Collision Course. That's what.
Yeah, the 5th one is where Scrat is in a spaceship and he gets his skin ripped off. And I was like, that is when Disney knew they had to buy Fox. Like, he gets his skin ripped off, and his skeleton with the eyes goes, ah! And I'm going,
Wait, what did he do again? Wait, I need a third time.
how did we get talking about big fish is what we're supposed to be talking about?
All I remember about Ice Age is all the trailers were just like smut videos for torturing that poor squirrel. That's all they were.
Smut?
Smut.
That's not smut. That's torture porn. There's a difference. Well, they also, it's like they're physically terrible to scrap, and then they're just incredibly mean to Shed the Sloth. It's like, how can you be mean to John Leguizamo for 5 movies? It's the same jokes. A dandelion must be the last one of the season. Oh, they're so good.
Anyway, that's all I have to say on Big Fish. I think I might need to walk this one out. Jared, where can they find us?
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the funny TikTok, and listen to us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and if it's YouTube, like and subscribe, comment, ring our bell. Make sure you rate us and like us on all those
appeals
apps, and then check out our groovy website.
Absolutely. If you guys like this episode, make sure we got so much more coming out every single week. Stay tuned, y'all, from all Slate Media.
Hold up. We have to announce next week.
Right.
Next week, the one and only, the premiere.
We get to see Jake's number 2.
It's very squishy.
His name is...
No, don't say that. That's mean.
No, I'm saying you should talk about him that way. He's wonderful. Jake, what's next week?
Next week, the one and only, the best man on the face of this planet, in my opinion.
Ooh.
Drew is back, y'all, to talk about the second best movie on my list.
Second favorite.
Yes, sorry. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, yeah. Which by now, it's good. Yeah, it's about the same month as the anime's coming out.
Yes.
Somewhere in there. We're recording this before the anime comes out. So.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be a good episode.
Yeah.
So, yes, before next Tuesday, go watch Scott Pilgrim, and then watch us talk about it in a week. We'll see you guys later.